Hey everybody, welcome back to the Homestead. Today I'm going to talk to you about 8 tips to help you keep a happy and healthy chicken flock. So without wasting any time, let's go ahead and get into them. With this first tip, let's go ahead and start with the beginning of a chicken's life. Now, you can hatch them out yourselves at home with your own incubators, or you can buy them from a retail store like Tractor Supply or Atwoods, or you could order them from a hatchery. But either way, once they're a couple of days old, you need to put them into a brooder for them to start growing out. Now, tip 1 is to start them off with medicated chick starter and grower feed. And what that's going to do is that's going to boost their immunity and help keep them from getting sick and dying right out the gate. These chicks have just hatched and they're pretty vulnerable. You got to keep them heated and all that. And it's better to just make sure that their immune system has a little boost to keep them healthy and thriving. Now, this next tip also has to do with the brooder. Tip number 2 is to put dirt inside your brooder. See, we have a little pan right there with dirt in it. Now, we got this dirt from where they're eventually going to be. And what this does is it gets them used to all the things that they're going to be facing when they get older. Now, if they've been protected and everything has been like sterilized or whatever, their immune system is going to be low actually. And once they get out there and they face the things out there like coccidiosis, then they might come into problems. But by introducing this dirt in here while they're young on that medicated feed, they're going to build that immune system to help them out later on in their life when they go to their final place where they're going to be. And then when they do come into contact, they'll already have an immune response ready to combat that, and they'll do a lot better than they would if they've never experienced that issue in the first place. And like I said, we just put like a small little pan in there with some dirt and stuff, just the stuff that's going to be in their chicken run where they end up. And they'll scratch and peck at it and eat some of it or whatever because they need grit anyway. So it's really good for them. A lot of people worry about the chickens eating dirt. It's natural, it's fine, everything will be good. And it's actually preferred when they're starting out because, again, it helps build that immune system and make them stronger and healthier birds in the future. All right, we're finally out of the brooder area. Tip number 3 is to keep your chickens as dry as possible. Now, that might be harder for some and easier for others. It kind of depends on your climate and where you live. If you are in a dry environment, then it will be a lot easier. But if you're in a wetter environment, it could get a little tricky. But you do want to always try to keep your chickens as dry as possible. Us on our homestead, we use wood chips in all of the chicken runs and areas that the chickens spend most of their time. Now, during the day, they go out to the pasture, they eat grass and bugs and all that, but they spend most of their time in the chicken runs and the chicken coops. So you need to make sure you can at least keep those areas as dry as possible because you don't want them in constant mud or their own poop or anything like that, because that can cause a lot of foot issues like bumblefoot, which is a painful bacterial infection in the feet. And it can be very painful for the chickens. Another issue that can arise from them constantly being wet is it hinders their ability to insulate, especially during the winter when it's really cold. If they're constantly wet, they won't be able to properly insulate themselves and keep themselves warm, and they could end up dying from the cold. And you also want to make sure that their bedding and their coop areas are dry because they will be pooping in there. And when you combine water and their poop and all that gunk, it will start releasing ammonia, and that ammonia can help cause respiratory issues with the chickens, and they can die from that as well. So you want to make sure that their bedding and their coop areas stay as dry as possible. Also, you want to routinely clean out their coop areas with fresh, dry bedding to make sure they don't get any of those respiratory issues. So I would definitely suggest finding the driest spot on your property that you could put chickens and using that spot. And if you don't have a spot that can stay dry, like on top of a hill or something like that, then you can do what we do and use wood chips to cover the dirt, because the wood chips dry a lot faster than the dirt when it turns to mud. The mud can take a while to dry out, but these wood chips, they dry out a lot faster and keep their feet dry. All right, moving on to tip number 4, and that is you should have a rooster if you can. Now, I know some areas you're not allowed to have roosters A lot of times in like city limits or something like that, you're only allowed to have a certain amount of chickens and they all have to be hens. But if you're not in city limits, I would highly recommend you getting at least one rooster. Now, not all roosters are created equal. You got to find one that's an actual good rooster, but roosters in general will help protect your flock from predators, whether it be hawks or possums or whatever. They will die trying to protect those hens, and that's what you want. You want a rooster that can help protect your chickens from predators, because you ain't going to be around all the time, and eventually the predators will find a way into the area, and they can either steal eggs or kill chickens and eat them. On top of that, if you actually want to incubate your eggs for more chickens, then you kind of need a rooster to to fertilize those eggs. But like I said, not all roosters are created equal. So if you get a rooster and he's too aggressive towards you, or he's too aggressive on the hens, or he's a wussy and he doesn't want to protect them, then start over. Get rid of that rooster, try a different rooster, raise them up, and hopefully he'll be a better fit for your flock. Now, tip number 5 goes hand in hand with tip number 4. You want a rooster, but you don't want too many roosters, okay? Too many roosters can cause havoc on your chicken flock. Too many roosters, they're gonna be aggressive towards each other, and they're gonna be harsher on the hens. When one rooster tries to mate with a hen, the other roosters will attack that hen and try to mate with it as well at the same time. And too many roosters can cause a lot of wear and tear on your hens. They can pluck the feathers from their back, and it's just a painful experience for the hens, constantly getting tagged by multiple roosters fighting over who's the dominant rooster. So you don't want too many roosters. The average you want is one rooster per 8 to 10 chickens. Here on our homestead, we have at least 60 chickens. And so we have, I think, 4, maybe 5 roosters, which is good. So there's enough roosters to protect the large flock that we got, but not too many to where they're constantly fighting each other and fighting for dominance over the hens. There's plenty of hens out there for them to each have their own love interests. And I do notice some of the hens, they have their preferred rooster. They'll kind of go and flaunt in front of one rooster, but run and hightail it from the other roosters. But if you get too many, like I said, it could be a huge issue for your flock. All right, moving on to tip number 6, and that's to routinely check your chickens for any kind of parasites like mites or anything like that. Even with your best efforts to try to keep them happy and healthy, sometimes things can happen like mites. So you want to constantly check them just to make sure that they don't have it, because if they do, then you want to give them a bath to get rid of them as soon as possible, because it can get out of hand very quickly. This girl's a talker. She don't really like being home. Yeah. But areas you want to check are the feet area, the legs, around the head, especially if you start seeing feathers come out and it's not like on the back from like a rooster picking them out. It's a good possibility she might have mites or some kind of parasite. So like I said before, you want to get rid of them as soon as possible, because it can get out of hand really fast, spread to other chickens, and you could end up losing a good chunk of your flock from them. So constant and routine chicken maintenance is super important to maintaining a happy and healthy flock. Would you agree? Would you agree? Yeah? You agree? Are you happy and healthy? Yeah? You want to get down, huh? Go ahead. All right, the next tip number 7, is to give your chickens supplements during extreme weather. Here in Texas, we can have really hot summers, and then we can turn around and have really cold winters. And so during those months of extreme heat or cold, we supplement our chickens with different things. Like take the extreme heat. During the hot months, we supplement our chickens' water with electrolytes. So that helps keep them lively, active, and healthy during those really hot months. But then on the winter end, we supplement our chickens with corn in their feed, because corn, when they digest it, creates a lot more heat than your average feed or other things. So we give them a little bit more corn in their feed to help boost their body heat temperatures in the cold months. And this goes a long way and helps your chickens out a lot, because it's not only about keeping them alive, it's about keeping them healthy and comfortable as well. And so you can see if your chickens are still active, running around, looking lively during the hot months and during the cold months, you know you're doing something good. Now for the 8th and final tip in this video, and that is dust baths. Dust baths can help a whole lot in warding off the mites and other parasites and keeping them off. You'll notice if you got chickens, they love to bathe in the dirt and the dust when they can. So why not help them out and make a bona fide dust bath area? Right now, we're just using this old tire, and we put things in it that they love to dust in, like firewood, ash, sand, diatomaceous earth. All those things can work really well as a dust bath. They'll get in there and bathe themselves in that. And again, that helps keep off the parasites like mites and things. Now, one thing with the dust baths is you're gonna have to replenish it every once in a while, especially like after it rains or anything. That stuff is no longer good. You should move the dust bath somewhere else, put fresh, dry ash or diatomaceous earth or sand or whatever you're gonna use in there for them to bathe in, because once it gets wet, it's not any good anymore. So that is one thing that you'll have to keep up with if you decide to do that. But in the end, I think it's worth it for the chickens to make sure that they stay happy and healthy. But that's it. Those are the 8 tips that I got to help you ensure that you keep a happy and healthy chicken flock. These aren't your basics of how to take care of chickens. These are just things that will help you ensure that your chickens have a happy and healthy life. And if you thought this video was helpful at all, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, we'd appreciate it. And with that, I hope everybody has a great day.